There. I believe I have clicked the buttons correctly, and everything is working the way that it's supposed to be. So, hello. Has-Been Hotel is started. The madness has reconquered us all, and now you're stuck with me doing this. But Has-Been Hotel is owned by Amazon, and Amazon is not a particular... Spindlehorse themselves are pretty forgiving about people doing reactions to full episodes of their shit on YouTube. They don't seem to mind that much. Amazon, on the other hand, a little bit more touchy about that. So the way that we're going to be doing this reaction is I'm going to require a little bit of work on your part as well, because I am not just going to be showing you all of the footage and all of the audio from the episode. You gotta procure that on your own. The way that I usually explain it is, think of this as you and I sitting next to each other on a couch, each of us with our own set of headphones, each of us watching the same show on each of our own laptops or phones or whatever. Occasionally, I'll be like, oh shit, I need to talk about this, and I'll say, okay, pause in 3, 2, 1, boom. And then we pause at the same time, and then I say all of my dumb nonsense, and then we return to the place where we paused, and then I say 3, 2, 1, go, and then we continue. This is very inconvenient for you, but it's convenient for me because I don't have to deal with Amazon's copyright nonsense. But if you find that it's a little bit too inconvenient, well, there is a more convenient way to view these reactions. You can find it if you are a member of the channel or you support me on Patreon or whatever. It's on the Discord. You can go there. It's more convenient. You don't have to go through all this trouble, but not on YouTube.com itself. Unfortunately, I'm afraid. Lawyers will nuke me from orbit if I try to get cute with them. So that's the way that we're gonna do this, and we're gonna watch some hotel has-beens doing some of the things of hotel and stuff in thing. If only there was a way to remember what happened in season 1. If only there was some convenient brief way where you could figure out what happened in Has-Been Hotel season 1. It's been so long, I just don't remember anything. If only someone had done a recap, like some sort of a song maybe or something. That would have been great, but unfortunately, no such thing exists and never will, so I guess I'm just gonna have to go in blind. So, set the timer on your video file to 00000, all of the zeros, and we'll start watching in 3, 2, 1, go. Well, that's familiar, at least. Hello, Brandon. All right. 3, 2, 1, pause. Let me just add a marker for easy. It's like, so, okay. The one thing I've been looking out for primarily, just looking at the first bits here, is like the relative animation quality. Because Has-Been Hotel season 1, it was fine. It looked fine. Like, I talked at length about some of the better moments of animation in the show, but it was also, as I've sort of come to learn since I started watching Hell of a Boss, it's also noticeably not quite as good as a lot of Spindlehorse's other output, because, as we talked about, Has-Been Hotel is produced on a sort of seasonal animation schedule, right? It's produced on a seasonal animation schedule with a seasonal animation budget, and it's like, unlike Hell of a Boss, where Spindlehorse can kind of spend however much money and time they want making the thing within reason, this is something that's a lot more structured, right? Like, where there is a corporate overlord saying this needs to be delivered on X date or else, right? And so Has Been Hotel being a little bit less impressive on the animation quality is like sort of not a surprise. To the best of my knowledge, they did a bunch of outsourcing on it as well. I actually found out the other day that an animator who worked on Has Been Hotel season 1, like who did like a little bit of one of the shots, who worked for an outsourcing studio. That's one of the people who did some of the animation for my video essays on like Dark Souls. A piece of animation I commissioned from them, right? And that's because like they worked at an outsourcing studio that was doing some work, I think for Bento Box or one of the other companies. So it's like, it's no wonder, like when it's not an in-house production where you can really sort of like, but you have to outsource it across multiple studios and things like that. Obviously, that puts some constraints on like the production pipeline, and on the things that you can do with the things. So what I'm looking for first is like, okay, what's the relative level of quality on the assets? What's the quality on the animation? So far, I need to turn off the audio scrolling. Hang on. I always forget to do that because it's very useful when I'm editing, but it's not very useful when I'm trying to scrub through a cartoon episode. So for the most part, the show doesn't look noticeably more impressive right off the bat. Not in like a very flashy way. This is a very low-key opening, honestly. Like certainly relative to sort of the apocalypse story we were told at the beginning of season 1, but there are things I'm noticing, like the attention to detail in the background, right? Like we have a suicidal person jumping off the roof here, presumably suicidal. Maybe it's a sex thing, who knows? Like you can never tell with background characters. A little bit of murder happening over here. A furry taking nudes, which obviously we support. And then we have this little fucking thing. And I sort of fixated on that immediately, because that's... What the fuck is that? Like, it's a joke character design, right? Like, unless this turns out to be one of the major new characters in the show, like, I wouldn't fucking put it past them. But it's a bit of a joke character design. It looks like something... It's honestly the kind of character design I'd expect to see on Smiling Friends. Like, with this extreme, like, geometric hyper flatness to it, and the juxtaposition between that and then this volumetric, like voluminously rendered, like giant fucking cigarette in his mouth. It looks like a Smiling Friends character, to me, honestly, which I thought was interesting. But the show is definitely not starting on a, hey, it's season 2, we have more budget. Like, it's like it doesn't seem to be going for that instant. It doesn't seem to be going quite for that instant, like, big pop of, like, oh my god, second season, we've got a bigger budget and all that. That doesn't seem to be what it's doing. The fuck is this guy? Why do you remind me of Salad Fingers? I guess it's just the hands. Hang on, that with the TV head, or whatever the fuck that is. Oh, you have to come back. You have to do something. That will be interesting. Oh, I'm getting a call. Okay, hang on. I actually need to take this call. I'm not gonna edit this, so you're just gonna have to sit there and wait. Okay, there we go. That was sorry, it was a call from my dad. He doesn't call me often, so I just needed to be sure it wasn't something terrible that happened. It wasn't. He's just asking if he can drop by soon, which is completely fine by me. Just unpleasant timing. What were we talking about? Right. So we have the introduction of our little mystery character here. A character who I believe has been, like, thoroughly teased on social media and so on. I do like... What's the shape of that there, huh? Resist, you say? Sure looks a lot like Lilith, that thing, doesn't it? And the eyes, of course. The eyes remain out in force. There she is again, Lilith. And again with the song and the music. So she's spoken about in the background, which was sort of my assumption after season 1, is that Lilith, her re-entering the politics of hell is going to be like a major thing that happens this season, and Charlie having to deal with, like, her dad, who is now on her side, but who's probably pathetically unable to stand up to his wife. He seems like that kind of guy. And then on the other hand, her mother, who clearly has her own agenda and has her own idea of how the world should be organized, because otherwise, why would she have agreed to whatever deal it was that heaven offered her? So she's literally spooking about in the background, right? Like, she's literally sort of this hovering background presence immediately in the episode. Meanwhile, Tom and Katie over here in the sort of undifferentiated gradient background space, which is, I think that's kind of funny that they kept that, like, the aesthetic of this whole thing is so much. They really are just like, yeah, no, like, we got it right in the pilot. We're not going to update anything. We're not going to change it. We're not going to make it look fit. Oh, fuck you. It's like this undifferentiated, like, red desk and, like, the gradient background. No, that's fine. That's fancy enough. We're not going to make it better. And that's not, I'm not saying that as a criticism, by the way, either. It's just funny to me that they're sort of keeping the aesthetic so heavily from the pilot for Tom and Katie like that. And that sort of also shows in the humor of, like, their interact, like the casual violence thing, right? Like, where Katie's constantly physically abusing poor Tom as sort of a background gag. That's very the pilot coded for me. Like, a little bit more of that slapstick sort of Looney Tunes that says swears kind of ass situation. Why is that robot wearing a hat on its it's because it's an eyeball and it has a bigger eyeball on the top. Once again, with the character design alerts, I do love me a Spindlehorse background character. Stylist, I guess that's Katie's suits. The backgrounds. Oh, okay. Yeah, I fucked your sister. Okay. The backgrounds, again, it's been, I should have rewatched Has Been Hotel season 1 before I did this, honestly, because I'm trying to gauge just how much more is happening in the backgrounds. It definitely feels more disciplined and more alive than season 1 did, in the sense of, like, background characters are more present and they seem to have a little bit more life to them. Like, not extensively, but this character right here having, like, these little reaction movements and just, like, these little itty bits of animation that are happening in the background with the side characters, right? Where it's not just that they move a little bit. You can see she moves her head, hairstyle has secondary motion. So it's not just, oh, we're just wiggling the background characters a little bit here and there. There's, like, actual sort of, like, time and craft put into making these characters, like, feel like they're an alive part of the background, which is nice to see. It's something this is my feeling. I feel like season 1 was a little bit more static with the background characters a lot of the time. Love a motion smear. But okay, I'm getting impatient. Let's resume where we left off. 3, 2, 1, go. No, hang on. 3, 2, 1, pause. Nope, nope, nope. You cannot get away. You cannot get away with that. You can't just do that. Is that Lucifer? Oh, okay. With a little snake belt, of course, and the rubber duck. Okay, so he's just living there now. Okay, well, I mean, fuck, better than living in his depression cave, I suppose. But, oh, okay. And then Al, with a little duct tape on his stick. Aw. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Sharp expression there, Al. Changing? Vagine? Guess who that's for? Yeah. Called it. Background character design alerts. Hmm. 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, there's a lot to go over here. I just don't want to pause. I want to pause all the time, but I also don't want to pause. Because I want to see what the fuck happens. But okay, name change. Interesting. But also background character designs. Again, a big strength of Spindlehorse is, like, you get a lot of the crowds that are this, right? Like, a lot of the crowds are just these, like, flat-shaded silhouette things that are mostly static, but they do a little bit of movement on them. At one point or another, it was with Angel, right? Like, when Angel... Yeah. You do get a little bit of this very mechanical, very lo-fi, like literally just like a little bounce animation, like their little sort of cardboard cutout figures at a shooting gallery or something, which is an interesting thing. Again, there's this thing of... My phone is giving me interference with my audio. There's this thing of the exact... Like, I'm trying to suss out the exact level of production quality that the show is signaling that it's going to be operating with. And right now, like, this, as a means of animating a crowd, this is effective, right? Like, you get the point. They're mostly there to frame the shot in this, like, V shape around where Husk and Angel are sitting. And the fact that they're moving at all is like, okay, cool, you get it. It's a crowd that's there cheering. It's also a very lo-fi solution to the problem, right? Like, it's a deliberately a deliberately sort of oversimplified way to render the idea of a crowd. It's very highly stylized as a piece of staging, which is interesting. Because, like, again, this is me thinking probably way too seriously and too far, and like way too far out into this. It's that issue of how does Has-Been, like, because when we're talking about the themes, right? How does Has-Been Hotel, the show, philosophically speaking, relate to the mass of sinners in hell, right? Because the sort of central thematic idea that Charlie has is that everyone deserves redemption, right? Like, everyone deserves a chance to do better, to be redeemed, right? Like, everyone deserves a chance of that. And that's a position of compassion, right? Like, that's a position of, like, this fucking flashing creep dipshit motherfucker also deserves a chance, even though he's kind of the worst, like, still. And the way that crowds are rendered in a show that's about that is like trying to sort of say, no, the masses of hell, the people, like the great sort of undifferentiated crowd, they're not just props, they're not just flat, right? Like that's sort of the thing where the show was trying to say, no, these people are more than just their sins. They are more than just like this flat stereotype that heaven has of them. And now we are here in Has-Been Hotel Season 2, and the visual representation that's being used for the massed crowd of hell is a flat cardboard cutout, like, essentially a stereotype, right? It's visually, they are stereotyped as an undifferentiated mass. So this is me thinking way too, like, but because I know that Vox is going to be a main villain, and Vox's whole thing is about population control, mind control, like winning over the crowd, controlling the narrative, all of that. The question I have is, okay, so how are we visually representing the crowd in relation to how they respond to influence, in relation to how they respond to opportunities for redemption? And that's the thing of, like, you have to balance that shit against the budget, right? Like, because the ideal way, visually, to present a crowd of NPCs or, like, background characters or whatever as these are all full people who have, like, complex interiority and who deserve, like, a chance to be seen as something more than just a statistic or a number. Ideally, that means each character is, like, personally hand animated on ones, like, artistically, like, with tools rolled between the thighs of, like, luscious women in Cuba. Like you have this idea of like it needs to be handcrafted and personalized. Like, the artistic effort that goes into presenting the characters should match the amount of humanity and personality that we're supposed to ascribe to them, that we're supposed to relate to them, right? And the question of that is, like, but that's not in the budget, right? That you can't do that in an animated TV show. You can't animate every single fucking background character. You have to take shortcuts. And this is just me pre-writing maybe some section in a video essay about Season 2, who knows? There is that thing of, like, can you at the same time insist that these people are complex human beings that deserve a chance at redemption, that deserve a chance to be understood complexly, at the same time as visually representing them as cardboard cutouts? Anyway, that's a bunch of nonsense that's not even really relevant as a part of the discussion. And the point I was trying to get at is that background character designs in Spindlehorse shows are often just so much fun. Like, it's so much, like, the setting of hell justifies so much original character do not steal character design on all the background characters, and it's lovely. It's something I've always really liked about Spindlehorse's output, is that it is so shamelessly grounded in online fan culture in that sense, in the way that it handles its visual development, right? This is fucking straight up a Bendy and the Ink Machine, like, ass character, right? Like, this is the fucking the modern reinterpretation of the 1920s Disney rubber hose cartoon character, right? Filtered through a sort of Has-Been Hotel and Bendy and the whatever Ink Machine kind of thing. And then we have, like, this fucking lizard dragon tower. Character, like, there's a genuine joy and enthusiasm in the way that background characters, because this is just someone's persona, right? Like, this is straight up just someone's persona. Online right now has this specific persona. And you have, like, creepy flasher slug guy from Happy Day in Hell. And you have whatever the fuck this guy is. Right? This fucking rat suit wearing little devil motherfucker spilling out of the inside. Like, it's so many. There's a real joy to that. And that's one of the things where, like, Spindlehorse shows, for example, differentiate themselves from, I mean, the easy example, any given isekai anime, right? Like, the background character designs in any given isekai anime are nothing, right? Like, and that's part of the point of a show like that, is that NPCs, background characters, they don't matter, right? Like, they're not really real people. They are generic NPC number 486 because of taking place in a video game, so therefore the characters are different, like, whatever. But a lot of animation does this. Like, even a lot of, like, higher budget animation, a lot of Western animation does this too, where background characters as character designs are marked out as unimportant and uninteresting just by virtue of they don't have a character design that's worth remarking on, right? Like, that's part of the visual language of these shows, is that you can tell which character matters by the way that their character design looks, right? And if these characters don't have details, if they don't have, like, main character, like, features, if they don't have like, fucked up hair color, right? Like, it's the thing of spot the anime protagonist. Watch any Yu-Gi-Oh anime, you can spot the protagonist in a room, like, that, just no problem. You always know the protagonist because all of the normal people have brown or black hair, and then the Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist is sitting over there, like, lighting up like a lighthouse, right? That's part of the visual language of cartoons, right? That's part of the visual language of animation a lot of the time, is you mark out the character that you're supposed to care about, that's supposed to be interesting, that's supposed to be central to your attention, with unique, interesting, far out, highly detailed character designs. Like, this is the whole premise of, like, gacha games are another great example of this, right? Like, gacha games do this exact thing where all of the playable characters are maximally hyper complicated. They have maximum number of details on everything at all times, maximally complicated, interesting, colorful, like, varied costumes. And then the background characters, like woman in dress, woman in the same dress with different hair color, woman in the same hair color but in a slightly different colored dress. Like, that's part of the language. What's interesting to me about Spindlehorse's output a lot of the time is they don't really do that. Even their silhouettes, right? Like, this crowd of silhouetted characters that I was yammering on about for way the fuck too long. Even here, when we have this crowd of silhouettes, there's a lot of care and attention paid to making the silhouettes interesting, right? So that each silhouette in turn implies an interesting character design of some kind. This character, like, who's missing piece of an ear, has, like, a lizard tail, I guess, with the fucking thing turning around. All these different shapes, all these different sizes. And again, that ties back to that thing I was yammering on about before, like that thing about how do you present the crowd? Do you represent them as unique individuals, or do you represent them as a faceless mass of easily controlled rubes whose importance to the plot is just as, like, a MacGuffin or a convenience or a resource to be fought over? Versus, right, K-pop Demon Hunters, like, recently did a really good job of that, actually. Like, K-pop Demon Hunters, because it had this narrative in the movie that was very much about, like, oh, it's all about the fans. Like, the K-pop stars, they care so much about the fans. I have my criticisms of how that movie handles that, but they do a good job in the character design of creating a big, diverse spread of interesting character designs for the fans, right? That help support the narrative ambition of the movie itself, like, to make these people actual human beings, at least visually in the presentation, rather than just, this is the crowd, and the crowd is a thing, a mass of people whose individuality does not matter, right? And Spindlehorse are good at that. I think that's the point I wanted to make, is Spindlehorse are good at making cool background characters that are interesting and fun to look at, and that make it worth pausing a show to yap about silhouettes for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes? How long was this? God only knows. Anyway, let's go see Charlie. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, Charlie. She doesn't know he's alive for a given value of alive. Okay. Do you know how redemption works? 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay. Now here's a scene and a half. Okay, cool. We're gonna sorry, settle in, folks. We're gonna be staring at this scene for a bit. So I talked about how Has-Been Hotel generally is often not quite as impressive in the character design, or was in season 1, not quite as impressive in the character animation department as Hell of a Boss is in the later episodes of the show. This feels like a bit of a step up and a half. So this is a comedy scene, right? It's funny, it's silly. Charlie is bawling her eyes out about a guy who isn't actually been destroyed, who's not actually dead insofar as the thing is going on. The egg boy is saying silly things. She's crying over, So we're working with broad acting. This is not a Shakespeare performance, right? This is not like soft what light through yonder window breaks. This is we're doing comedy. We're doing a broad acting performance, but look at the staging here and the way that. So there are many different ways to do a scene like this. The thing I'm noting is I'm noting the breaks in camera movement. I'm noting the way that the staging and the framing of the scene changes. So we start want you to have it. She holds it up. Then there's this camera move following her as she gets up. Following her, she does a lot of acting into and around the camera. Where, again, I should have watched Has-Been Hotel Season 1 again before this. It just kind of snuck up on me somehow because I wasn't following all the hype. My memory of Season 1 is that they liked medium shots a lot more. They liked medium shots and long shots. They liked fairly somewhat more static camera placements. So, this... relatively active camera... Plenty of cuts. And the thing about cuts, right, in animation is depending on how you make the assets and how you handle the production flow, every time you cut to a new shot, you might need a new background for that shot, right? And the background you need for a close-up shot might not be something you can't necessarily just take a background that you used for a long shot and zoom in on it always. Sometimes you need a custom asset for that. Which that's part of the job of production coordinators and asset management coordinators and there's a bunch of people who work on animation production whose job is just to make sure that all of the assets that are necessary for all of the shots that the animators are animating have the necessary background elements. They have the things that they have elements that match the animation that's being produced so the compositing can be correct. There's a lot of work and time that goes into doing that. So this shot with Vaggie opening the door, right? When we cut in closer here, that's not just... They didn't just zoom in on this background. They probably had to make this background here from scratch for that shot. And, animation production is all about finding places where you can reuse and reuse and reuse as many assets as humanly possible, so you have to, custom make fewer of them. But the camera feels more active, I think. certainly in this scene, than it feels like it was in season 1. I may be misremembering. Like, again, I haven't rewatched season 1, so I might be misremembering a whole bunch of stuff in the comparison. I'll rewatch season 1 again before the next episodes come out, so I can have a better basis of comparison. But I like the activity on the camera. Like, the storyboarding feels stronger. Oh my god. Sorry, I just got another fucking email from some fucking... Sorry, you're gonna have to listen to me. I need to get this shit out. Do you have any idea how many fucking promotional emails I've been getting recently from AI companies? One of them made me want to put a gun in my fucking mouth, because you know what they were offering me? They said, hey, why don't you contract our company to scan all of the comments you've ever left on YouTube, and then we'll create an AI version of you, and that's gonna go around and respond to all the comments on your channel for you? They were trying to sell me on that. They were trying, like, isn't this a great product so you don't have to fucking talk to the unwashed masses on you? And specifically, the way they were pitching it to me is that this AI agent will accurately mirror the way that you talk, and it will build relationships with your audience, right? Like, it'll talk to people, and like all generative AI does, it'll be obsequious, and it'll praise them, and it'll flatter them and say, oh, that's such a nice comment, and you're my favorite commenter, and that's really insightful, and it's going to build relationships for you with your audience, which is going to like the implication, they didn't say this outright, the implication being, and then they will sign up to your Patreon, then they will give you money, right? Like it's gonna ingratiate itself with your audience so that you can make more money off of them. And like, I don't... I try to be a pacifist in my life, but fuck off. Anyway, I got another email like that about some fucking bullshit there that interrupted my flow of thought, and it made me angry. Anyway, the camera movement seems more active. Like, there's a lot more... It feels like there's more push in. But the thing I really wanted to talk about was the acting performance on Charlie here. Right? Because here, the camera action is supporting the acting, right? The acting of the scene is that Charlie's putting a lot of pressure on herself. She is dying from guilt over, like, as we saw at the end of season 1, was like where her first emotion upon defeat is like, well, Serpentius fucking died, and a lot of people died, and this is my fault because I couldn't get heaven to listen to me, right? She has internalized that guilt because she's the leader, like, as a good leader is arguably supposed to do. And so now she's in this sort of hypermanic state of just trying to cope and deal with her feelings, and that leads to this like extreme acting performance. And what I like here is, again, the way that the camera work is supporting her acting performance. Because as she is, like, giving this hyperactive performance, you can see the camera does this little move, right? Like, that little push in with a little bit of, like, that settling, almost as though it's like a hand, like someone is standing at the tripod and, like, manually zoomed and turned the camera. And as she gets, like, more and more animated and active, the camera becomes chaotic as well, right? Like, it loses the framing. Like, it stays on Charlie, to be fair. It's not like it's bad camera framing, but, like, the camera is deliberately supporting the manicness of what Charlie is going through by doing these push-ins and, like, doing this wiggling and... Right? And that's, that's nice active use of camera. Again, something that feels like... It feels to me like season 1 really didn't do that. And I quite like that. It supports the animation performance very well. And there is a looseness also, especially to this performance from Charlie. Which, like, that could be down to, like, whoever the lead animator was on this particular shot. Like, they all have different, you know, approaches and styles. And you can sometimes spot them out from each other. But especially, like, this performance from Charlie, there's a looseness and a real, like... Look at the way she just enters the frame here. This is fully on some Looney Tunes shit, right? Like, that's a Looney Tunes-ass way of entering a frame. Bouncing around. Like, this constant secondary bouncing motion as well. She's very cartoony. She's very loose, right? You can see how... Like, not that the animator isn't being on model or consistent, but they're being very loose with her proportions. They're being very loose with, like... wobbling around bits of her face, again, to support the acting performance. And I like that. Like, look how squishy she is. Look how squishy and rubbery and malleable she is. Again, this is something I feel like with Season 1, the characters felt a lot more static than this. In many places. This is a lovely transitional frame. Like, it's just... Yeah, this is just like a rising animation with 3 frames, but... Oh, good hand acting as well here. You see how the I'm sorry, I'm just into this right now. You see how the animator is using the hand, especially on Charlie, to sort of bridge between the, like, because she does these disparate motions, right? Here she's like squeezing onto Vaggie and holding on, and then it's like, no, we beat Adam, and it's packed and everything's fine. And then like she goes from this position of strength, right? Like, we beat Adam and the hotel is packed, and then the way they lead from here to here, from the clenched fist to the open hand. And that's sort of the thing that leads Charlie's motion. Like, that little arc there is being used to support the forward push. Yeah, it's really loose. Like, I will say, I think some of this could do with 1 or 2 more in-between frames. Some of it feels maybe a little jerky at times. I suspect that's a deliberate choice to support the sort of frazzled, frayed... wildness of her here. But this is very loose. This is very free. In a way where Hazbin Hotel Season 1 felt more like it was very concerned about staying on model. I like how much they're deforming her. I like that she gets to look ugly. Like, in these moments of extreme emotional stress, that she gets to look fucked up, right? Yeah, that's really good. I really like this acting performance here. Like, there's some model inconsistencies that I'm spotting here and there. For example, here with Vaggie, as she's talking. You see how her cheek just sort of, like, snaps from here to there into her talking animation? Like, there's definitely some model inconsistencies that are happening that occasionally feel a little... But the looseness... I really like the looseness. I love a good smear frame also. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, let's see if that continues. Oh, it was eyeballs! 3, 2, 1, go. Ooh. Brandon Rogers, that's a different brand. Too much fun is what they're having. 3, 2, 1, pause. Brandon Sanderson. Oh boy, that would be funny. Rogers is having too much fun. Yeah, again, lots of camera work happening. Lots of active use of the camera. Especially in terms of like Vox is short, right? Like Vox is he's a little midgy manlet tiny boy, right? He's a little boy. Him a little guy. So in this scene, how do we establish a power relationship, right? Like because Vox has total power over all these people. So how do we establish that Vox is in control in this interaction with Katie Killjoy, right? Like, and that's where the framing of the scene comes in, right? Vox is a lot shorter than her, but the camera is making sure that when he's in a demanding position, right? What the fuck is this? What? All of a sudden, like the perspective here is being used to make him bigger. Here, he's towering over her in the frame, even though she's much smaller than him. Here, she's being pushed into the side of the frame. Like, there's good active use of the camera. Again, supporting the character interaction. I feel like there's also more physical interaction between characters in some of these scenes. In the sense of, like, the characters are acting with physical interaction with each other in a way that, again, I don't know. I think I might be talking out of my ass there. They probably did that in season 1 as well, didn't they? But anyway, Brandon Rogers basically gets to play play a little bit of horny season 1 Stolas from Hell of a Boss here. So Vox is an interesting character. We talked about Charlie with all the looseness, right? Like that Charlie was allowed to be kind of a Looney Tunes character, and she was allowed to be very loose with it. Vox has, I guess the problem for that kind of animation is that his head is a square. It's a box, right? So when you want to three-dimensionally move that and you want to emote that and you want to move, because you can see like his body itself, right? Like you look at his shoulders, you look at his neck, this is flat as fuck, right? Like there's just a little bit of sort of curves going on with the pinstripes and stuff, but you see the way that like when we turn around, this is not really a three-dimensional volumetric rotation of the volume of his upper body. This is a flat thing being squeezed a little bit, and then we snap from one side to the other like that. But you can't do that with his TV head. You can't just squeeze it and snap it like that. So the animators have to actually like rotate this geometric object quite carefully while the body itself, being this hyper stylized flat thing, is handled very differently in the rotation. What I'm curious about, like Vox is gonna have his big villain song at some point. We're 6 minutes in. We haven't had a song yet. That's interesting. Vox is going to have his big-ass motherfucking villain song at some point, right? At that point, I'm going to be curious to see how they handle his body. Like, whether they give him volume and how much they're going to play with, like, the three-dimensionality of him. And I know, yes, people in chat, you all want to handle Vox's body, etc., etc. So I'm going to be curious about that. This is a really nice shot, this one. Like, because again, it's that thing about, like, playing into the camera, right? Like, managing distance from the camera. Up close, very much in Vox's space, but then we retract her into the scene and she's sitting on the desk. That's very deftly handled. Like, that looks really nice and smooth, even if it doesn't necessarily make three-dimensional sense with the space. That's really smoothly handled to push her forward and pull her back like that. Is she a spider-like angel, by the way? Is that what's going on with her? Yeah, I like the acting performances so far. Another turnaround shot with Vox here. You can see the same thing happening, right? Except this one's more volumetric. Like here, they're really using the pauldrons or of that big fucking Vivsy suit that he's wearing to sort of mask the transition from one flat plane to another. I'm looking at the hat also, because the hat is another thing. This hat is hyper stylized as well. This hat is flat. Like, this thing is two-dimensional. It doesn't have a volume. So when you're rotating that hat in space, you can see how they snap from the hat is a completely flat object with no real volume. Now we need to rotate it. Oh, shit. All of a sudden, it gains more volume. It literally gets a little bit thicker. And then it's an actual cylinder just for the few frames where we have to rotate it, and then boom, we go back to like this flat object. Like as soon as we can, we retreat back into the stylization of it. That's a really interesting thing to handle. I think the animators are doing a good job at it, because that's one of the things about Vivsy Pop's character designs, right? Like I think we talked about that all the way back when I talked about the fucking pilot of Hell of a Boss. Is that her character design style, her sensibility for character design, is very much something that that comes out of the legacy of Newgrounds, that comes out of like Invader Zim and like Johnny Bravo and the Powerpuff Girls and like the Craig McCracken show, Samurai Jack, all of that shit, right? And those character designs with their extreme deliberate hyper flatness, like when you watch those shows and you pay attention to how they animate them, well, Samurai Jack is a bit of an exception, but that's because everything about Samurai Jack is a bit of an exception. Like there is this extreme flatness to the way that those characters are animated, which was like very much the house style of Cartoon Network at the time. Also, something like that sort of dominated that era of the 2000s, and very much the style of animation that you would get in Flash cartoons as well, because Flash cartoons by necessity kind of had to operate with these very flat characters just because of the limitations of the production that you were working with, because most people weren't doing hand drawn frame by frame animation in Flash for bigger projects. And so translating those character designs into this more ambitious modern TV animation thing where characters are expected to have a certain level of dimensionality and where the camera work is like, that's the other thing. A lot of the shows that have these hyper flat characters will do their staging and their camera work to match the hyper flat characters, right? Like to play to the strength of the hyper flat characters. Hazbin Hotel is being more ambitious with its camera, and that means the animators now have to be like more creative in figuring out how to handle these things, because the camera is operating in these spaces as though they are three-dimensional rather than just like being a fourth wall that looks on like in a sitcom. I really like watching them problem solve that. That's really cool. A little bit of elasticity to Vox as well. Anticipation, stretch, squash, yeah. All the precious principles of animation being deployed there. Do you think Valentino does that to him when they... never mind. Oh, hey, that's the same camera operator from the actual... Hey, they remembered. Haha, very good. Anyway, let's actually continue. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, there he is. Hello, Baxter. Speaking of Invader Sim, by the way. Oh, very good. Oh, no. Oh, no, Charlie. Charlie, honey. Oh, hey, here comes the song. Okay. 3, 2, 1, pause. Like, we'll come back to the song. Don't worry. Speaking of Invader Zim, though, is that Richard Horowitz, or am I just hearing things? Certainly giving a performance in the vein of a Zim, I'll say. It's Kevin Aguila. Okay, yeah. Speaking of rotating flat characters, you can see the moment, right? Like here, flat rendering from the side, like with the sort of ski slope nose, and then boom, there. You have to have that moment of transition, right? Like you have to have that moment because it's not a 3D model. You have to have that moment as an animator when you decide, okay, when does the other half of the face exist and when doesn't it? Right? Like when do we transition from like the flat character to the three-dimensional volume? And that was really smoothly handled. And you can see, like, it's Goku hair syndrome, right? In the same way of, like, I've talked about this before, in Dragon Ball, when Goku turns his head from left to right, his hairstyle just kind of, it just flips, right? Like, it doesn't, his hair doesn't actually rotate. And you can see they're doing the same thing here, where they're having to handle, again, like, the Vivsy Pop copyright trademark giant fucking eyelashes of this character. So when we want to rotate the character, the eyelashes have to go from pointing outwards from her eyes to pointing outwards from her profile, right? Like they have to be small near the nose, they have to be big on the outside. So you just do that little you just kind of move them, right? So like smoothly just move it to the other side, and then like we change the shape of the eye. That's hard to handle. It's hard to make that look smooth and make it read natural in a very slow motion like this. Same thing with her hair, right? Like you can see like the way they have to handle, like they raise the hairline over here, but you can see how the hair isn't moving quite at the same rate as the head because the hair has to fill out the volume of her silhouette on the outside there. It's just clever work, man. Like, it's just animators being good at establishing the volume of what they're doing. Just physical acting of Baxter here.
Like all the hunched over, like a little guy with his, like, rubbing his forearm back and forth.
Right, and when he's, like, recoils from her, he doesn't, like, he still has his hands, like, little, holding them flat like that. Fucking Dr. Drago ass posture. Just, again, we're doing this very broad performance, right? I quite like it, especially as a contrast to poor Charlie at this moment. The lack of tension in his posture and behavior. So, we talked about with Charlie in season 1. Charlie doesn't fucking know what redeems a person either. Or she didn't in season 1. It doesn't feel like she's figured it out in season 2 either, because no one knows, right? Like, Heaven doesn't know. Nobody knows what redemption means. And in season 1, she was under this sort of childish misapprehension that, oh, well, redemption just means you have to say no to drugs and always look both sides before you cross the road and help old ladies and be good with scout. Like, she had this childish conception of what morality even was that led to her having an inability to articulate to the hotel's guests like how she would be able to help them redeem themselves. But, you know, it's an ignorance that's understandable because no one knows a goddamn thing about what causes redemption. Heaven doesn't know. They don't even know what sin is, right? Like, there's no definition of sin that anyone has access to in the Helliverse either, because it's just, they just kind of go, oh, well, whoever shows up in heaven is saintly, and whoever goes to hell is sinful. So we sort of work backwards from there, right, to try and figure out what sin is. And so Charlie's relationship with her people is like, she's very well-meaning. She wants to try and help them. She believes very strongly in their existential rights, right? Like their right to exist, their right to a chance, right? Their right to a better world. But she's also very divorced from reality in a lot of ways. Like, she's sheltered, right? And she's deeply inexperienced, and it kind of seems like she's never really experienced death trauma before, right? Like, people have been getting killed in hell since forever. But the way that they're playing her here in episode 1, it feels like she's never really had to deal with someone dying right the fuck in front of her before, right? She's never really had to deal with the consequences of someone dying and process it, like, as Vaki calls out. And again, that childishness comes through, right? Where having found something that feels like, oh, here's my second chance. I couldn't save Pensius, but I can save this this Baxter, right? She sort of instantly slots poor Baxter into the hole that Pensius has left in her heart because she doesn't really know how to process him as a person, right? And Baxter is doing this whole performance like, well, he's very clearly not like Pensius at all. For one thing, he's tiny, right? Where Pensius was a huge fuck-off snake. For another thing, his whole posture and his behavior, like, where Pensius, oh yes, I shall be the overlord of all of hell. Like, Pensius is loud, Pensius is expressive, Pensius is, like, out there with his emotions all the time. Baxter, meanwhile, is
hunched over, and yes, I'm here to study. Yes, I'm a mad scientist. I'm here to study. Redemption is
like, he's much more like down. He's much more like, so there is this deliberate opposition between them where he's about as opposite from Pensius as something can be, but Charlie fixates on a superficial characteristic of him and sort of turns that into her whole conception of of who he is. And that feels very much like, in terms of what Charlie has to change, how Charlie has to change as a person. If she's going to help redeem anyone, she's going to have to learn to see people as people, right? Like, not just extensions of her imagination, which is a little bit how she treats people in season 1. Not out of malice, not because she's a bad person, but because she doesn't know, right? Because she doesn't know any better. And it certainly feels to me like what they're setting up is that Charlie has to learn to cope with her guilt over Pensius's death, which is going to be especially interesting when it turns out he's not fucking dead. And also that she's going to have to learn to see like these people as more than just projects, right? These are human beings. These are people, and they're not just your projects. They're not just something for her to fix or a means for her to address her problems or her anxieties or her fears or her guilt. Like, they're not just things for her to use to feel better, right? She feels bad about the exterminations, so she's going to redeem a bunch of sinners. But what does that mean? How do I relate to people? She's a princess, right? Like, she has that sheltered, well-meaning goodness in her that needs to be tempered with, a more complex understanding of who people are. I feel like that's, if she has a character arc this season, that would be it, right? Like, that feels like what they're hinting towards. Anyway, let's continue with the song. 3, 2, 1, go. Ah, fucking background character designs, man. I'm gonna have to go back and look at all those fucking character designs. Oh, we're getting predatory real fast, huh? Ooh, the hot. Jesus Christ, Val! Okay. 3, 2, 1, pause. Jesus Christ, Val. Oh, that's a lovely flight. Look at that. Ah, curves. I do love me a good... So we talk about this with the imps in Hell of a Boss a lot, but like, when the... Like, part of the reason why Viv Medrano loves to design her character so long and so lanky is this. Look at the way the tail is used in this, like, tracking, like, this like, floating shot to trace the motion of the character And because you constantly have that long, lovely line of motion guiding your eye on screen, the flight feels so smooth and so good, right? Like, that's that length. And that's part of the function of those very long, lanky character designs, is that they are really, really good for making these S-curves, these lines of action, of pulling characters around through a scene, like making really nice, appealing, like key poses for them, where you can really sort of stretch them out. That's part of the advantage of them. Like, and I've talked, like, my video essay about the character design of Has-Been Hotel. What the fuck is McCree doing here? Wait, he's not called that anymore, is he? He's called something else now. I haven't followed Overwatch in ages. Cassidy, right. In my video essay about the character design of Has-Been Hotel, like, one of the things I talked about is that one of the criticisms I do have for the show is Viv Medrano loves herself a long, lanky character design, maybe a little bit too much, because it is a thing of like, okay, but you should also be able to animate other things in this, right? Like, I want to see characters that aren't just designed around this one, like, paradigm, this schema. But there are reasons for it. Like, there's reasons why someone would end up with fucking slice of life anime as, whoa, no, I tripped and touched her boobs. There are good reasons to do it. Like, it has a function, and it has advantages. Alistor is really on his bitch mode this episode. I guess almost dying must have freaked him out a little bit. It's very much also the reintroduction song, right? Like, it's we're reintroducing the hotel, we're reintroducing the premise, we're reintroducing all the characters and the way that they relate to one another, right? And so we're reestablishing, especially like Cherry Bomb, who did not get that much screen time in season 1. Again, that's the main criticism of season 1, is that it was way too overcompressed, right? Is that it did not have enough time to actually explore all of its characters or establish everything that it needed to do. Cherry Bomb was one of the characters that got the shaft from that, who really lost out and really didn't get to be much of a character. But here they're making a point out of Cherry Bomb, like, being core cast, right? Like, being a main part of the hotel's central group of characters. And they're making a point of establishing her quirks, right? Like, is that she's Australian, she calls everything cunt because she's Australian, and she blows things up with bombs, probably also because she's Australian. And we're reestablishing group dynamics, and we're leading like, this is Baxter being introduced into the group, right? Like you're the Serpentius replacement now, buddy, whether you like it or not. So we're taking him to a fucking giant portrait of the guy mounted over a fireplace, so Charlie can, like, be a gothic heroine for 2 seconds and have a mental breakdown about, like, the unprocessed grief and unspoken desires that roil in the depths of her heart. Oh, poor Baxter, you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, buddy. I like that little gesture. Like, walk up, he stops, and then he adopts his, right, like, the little hands behind the back gesture thing. It is a funny juxtaposition also, because, like, she fully goes into some Wuthering Heights level, like, angsty, like, the way that she's acting, right? Like, the behavior she's displaying, this, like, rising up in horror, like, clasping her head, and then, like, her body begins to collapse under the weight of the sadness and distress. And, like, absent, like, as an acting performance, that's quite dramatic, right? Like, that's quite like, oh god, I am collapsing under the weight of, like, my sins and my misery. But because it's Charlie, right, it's not this dark expression of haunted torment. It's like, oh, this is my best friend, It's very cute. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's a fun little, again, just crediting the animator with making a, so we're transitioning from this wide shot establishing the bar to the close up when she's offering the beer to Baxter, right? Like, so the character, we're cutting on a movement. We're using the movement of the character to set up the transition to smooth, like, the cut. So what do? Charlie picks up the beer bottle and then she's going to offer it to him. That's the cut on move that we're setting up here. How does the animator handle it, though? Well, Charlie picks up the beer bottle and then she, like, leans forward like she's about to huck it like a baseball almost. And there's this sense of, like, the bottle is staying in place and there's this elastic tension building up. And then in 2 frames, like, doosh, bottle right in front of his face. And the settle. That's a really nice way to transition the shot. And one of the things you don't notice is that the bottle changed hands. It's probably justified in that, like, she probably swapped it from one hand to the other off screen, right? Like, so it's not like a big mistake. But the point here is to ease the transition, right? Like, the thing we want this key pose where she's pointing at the bottle and holding it out towards him. But for this shot here, we don't want Charlie to be crossing over in front of herself. We want that hand out. We want the big arc where the bottle sort of swings up over top and comes down. And so we do this little swapping of hands, and, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't need to be justified. It makes sense in terms of this of like what we want to do with the transition between the shots. And that's not bad animation, I should say. Like, that's when you hide it, right? Because I fucking guarantee you that 99 point... I didn't notice it. Like, the first time, a few times I saw the shot, I did not notice the hand swap at all. I only notice it because I'm zooming in and I'm, like, watching this shit frame by frame. And if the audience doesn't notice it and it feels correct when you watch it, then it's a good, like, then it's a good animation move. It's the same as, I think I've talked about this before, in Frozen, during the Let It Go song. And Elsa is taking out, like, her braids and things. She's, like, letting her hair down and that. She does a little move where she's pulling on her braid and pushing it over her shoulder. And if you frame by frame your way through that, you can see that the braid actually clips through her shoulder, right? And that's the sort of thing that for a while, pedantic animation nerds like me on Tumblr was sort of passing around gift sets of that and saying, like, how could they overlook this obvious animation mistake? But the point is, no one saw the animation mistake until someone went looking for it, right? When you see the shot in motion, when the film is playing and the song is playing, that little convenience of, okay, we're just going to clip something through something else to accentuate emotion or to allow for a curve of action that we like, that's not an animation mistake. That's an animation choice. And if you don't see it the first time you watch the movie, or even the second or third time, if you don't see it until you're frame by framing your way through some shit like a pedantic motherfucker with a YouTube channel, then it's a good animation choice. Then it works. If it lands emotionally, if the audience feels it correctly, even if it doesn't look right, then it works. Then it's correct. Then it is a correct choice. Anyway, background character alerts. Lots of them. That character looks straight the fuck out of, was it the Book of Life it was called? I think. Oh, that's cool. Look, it's a fucking alien situation with one character inside of them. It's a Vor situation, in fact. Living Donut, I guess? Something like that? I guess a bird goblin shark hybrid? Minotaur lion? Oh, that's a split eye. That's really cool. Is that a cyclops or does she have eyes on the other side of her head? Who knows? And then this motherfucker. This is, I swear to God, I have seen someone posting with that avatar on Twitter like years ago, like a major shit posting account that had that exact avatar. I swear to God. Is this a cameo? I swear to God, that feels like it's a cameo. Oh, it's the living tombstone. Is that actually their profile picture? Oh, cool. I'm not familiar with the living tombstone very much, so that's pretty funny. But that's the thing, right? Like, all of these fucking characters could be the animator's personal OCs, right? All of these characters could be someone's profile picture, someone's persona, someone's OC, someone's whatever. That's the point, right? And one of the things about this song is that it makes a point out of using that bit of character design, right? That every single one of these background characters look like they could kind of be main characters of their own webcomics. And that's the point, right? Like, that's the thing that the V's use when they hit her with the predatory influencer contract. And so the song is setting up the contrast, right? Like, we have the Has Been Hotel, which promises redemption, which promises maybe, we don't know how exactly, but we'll figure it out. Somehow we can all be nice to each other, and then the world can be better, and it's not profitable, and it's not necessarily going to be a lot of fun, but probably maybe something better. Versus the House of the V's, where it's like, no, we'll make you rich, we'll make you famous, we'll make you naked on the internet for people to pay money to your OnlyFans for a bit. But you will get it now, and you'll get it for sure, right? Like, the has-been guarantee is we can all live in harmony, and something better, maybe, I don't know, it's like, we're working on it, we'll figure it out. On the other hand, the V's are like, no, we have this shit down to a science. We can make you a star. We can extract all of the money in the world from you. And it'll work 100% of the times because we have this shit down to an art, right? Like, once people are tired of you, we start manufacturing controversies because then people will hate you, and hate clicks are still clicks. We still get money out of that, so fuck you, right? Like, it's that contrast between the certainty of this, right? Like, the certainty of corruption, the certainty of vice, of giving into your worst self, right? Of allowing yourself to be subsumed into sort of these social capitalist modes of production, the Silicon Valley bullshit, versus the uncertainty and the vulnerability and like the wasted time that might come with giving yourself over to something as touchy-feely, wooby-wooby as we can live in harmony, kumbaya, right? That's the contrast we're setting up here, is that the V's have this exploitation is a science to them, right? Like, they have a formula, it works every single time. All people can be converted into useful fodder for the V's through the use of their, like, patented 12-step process or whatever, right? And against that is Charlie, who just says, we can live in harmony, we can be nice to each other. It's just, woo. Certainty versus uncertainty. And again, that treatment of, like, how do you treat people, where Charlie, like, we talked about it, she's not necessarily good at it, but she wants to treat people like people, right? She wants to try and see, she has an ideal that people should be treated as human beings, as people, and the V's are like, no. People are product. People are, like, grist for the mill. People are a thing which we can use to generate profit for ourselves, right? But they are not human beings, right? And also, immediately, it's like, she gets spotted on the street, hey, you look pretty cool. You have stardom about you, right? Like, you have something special to you, except, fuck you, we're gonna change your look. We're gonna change your body. We're gonna change everything about you. We're gonna give you a vagina wax, I guess. And then we're gonna, like, manufacture and present you. And you don't get a say in that. Trust us, right? Like, we decide what your image is. We decide how you get presented, how people think of you, how people see you, how you get to present yourself. Then we take advantage of that until you're done, and then out on your ass, right? And it's also that thing about disposability, right? To Vox and the V's, everyone is disposable, right? Like all of the guests of the Has Been Hotel, all of the sinners in hell are disposable resources. To the Has Been Hotel, everyone is irreplaceable, right? That's the thing about Charlie is like, she lost like Serpentius, one guy in the battle with Heaven to end the genocides, or at least stave them off for now, and that's completely destroying her. Whereas that's the thing that they demonstrate at the end of the song, right? Right? Disposability. They are disposable even to each other, right? Doesn't matter. Like, there is no loyalty here. Everything is a resource. Everyone is disposable. Jesus Christ, Val. I thought for a second that this was a Cybertruck, which would have been very funny, but no. Okay, I'm just gonna go through that whole fucking song again because I want to hear it one more time. But once I've done that, if you're waiting and watching, let me get you to a time code that you can go with. We are gonna start at 8 minutes 44 seconds. So if you're watching along in the inconvenient manner, that's the place you're gonna go to. And then we're gonna play in 3, 2, 1, go. Guarantee. Very classical musical opening number as well, this. And then it gets interrupted by something less traditional. Generate passive income, by the way. Oh my god. I get those emails also all the time. Hello, Val. Jesus Christ. I do like that the V's know that Vox is definitely going to betray them. Charlie can't control the narrative, huh? I ate my wife! Okay. Hello. Very good. Oh, hello! Good character design. Oh boy, disposability. Oh boy. Yeah, no, yep. Mm-hmm. Three, two, one, pause. Yeah, we were talking about disposability. Oh man, Valentino is the worst. Holy shit, he sucks so bad. Oh, good lord. But I like that they don't. This is a conversation that certainly existed with season one, right? It's that this is ultimately a comedy show. It's an edgy comedy show full of fuck words and swears and like blood and tits and whatever. Not as many tits as people think, but still. And there's that thing of like, is that tonally appropriate for handling a theme about like domestic violence, right? About pretty serious partner abuse, right? Like, because that's the core of what Valentino really is he's a domestic abuser, right? Like, it's not just a cartoony representation of a silly like caricature of like a pimp or whatever from the 90s. It's like, no, this is a kind of person that exists. And this is a kind of behavior which is real, right? Like, it's caricatured, it's a bit exaggerated, but it's a kind and it's a level of violence and cruelty that is real, right? Like, it's not just, so there is that conversation there about like, how do you handle the tone of that? And like, is it ever justified to play it for comedy like this, right? Like, and that's, I don't think that's a thing that has a definitive answer, but I suspect a lot of people are gonna have some not very good feelings about this kind of depiction, right? Like, to a lot of people, this is gonna feel like it's trivializing the severity of it, right? It's gonna feel like it's downplaying how damaging and horrifying this really is by sort of going, hey, montage of guy getting slapped, haha, look at the silly expression on his face, isn't that funny? It's a yaoi paddle, do you know the meme? Like the meme, it's the meme like the meme, that's funny. And I'm not gonna quibble with that critique. I think that's, valid place of discussion, and not being a survivor of domestic violence myself, not really my thing to sort of make a call on. But I do like that the villains are just unambiguously evil. Right? Like, it's we're not gonna pretend otherwise. I was using that, right? Using that, right? Absolutely doesn't give a shit about who it is, what the name is, whatever. Goes very quickly from don't listen, you can focus on me, oh, you're like, you're right here, and I was like, intimate with you, and then with the fucking arm floating there. I do like that they are unambiguously pieces of shit, right? These are monsters, these are bastards, these are scumbags. They are not just fun. Like, that's a problem that we kind of had in season 1 with the V's, by the way, is that only really Valentino got to be a proper villain in season 1. Because Vox in season 1, it was like Alastor sang a song at him and then he was just kind of defeated. And the only thing he really did to fuck with the hotel was send Pensius in there, which is, as efforts to sabotage the hotel goes, is half-assed at best, right? And all that Velvet really got up to was she sang a song at Carmilla Carmine and she was kind of a bitch about it, and that's it, right? Like, they didn't have any agency, they didn't take any action because they weren't meaningful villains in season 1. I've spoken at length about like the ways that season 1 had pacing and like content problems like that. This season looks set up to go a lot more like, no. Let's talk about how these people are evil, right? Let's talk about how these people are cruel. Let's display very obviously how disposably they treat other human beings. It's fucked up to say, but this is very nice animation of this poor woman getting brutally murdered. Of course, that's what he was drawing. I couldn't quite see it on the first pass, but But yeah, there's going to be discourse about that. I'm going to try not to participate in it, because not my lane. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Well, he didn't! He's not in charge of anything! He's absent! Yeah, that's the thing. World's most divorced man. Three, two, one, pause. Okay. It's like asking Lucifer how he deals with the stress of being in charge of things. Like, motherfucker didn't. He was sitting in his cave making rubber ducks. He wasn't dealing with it. Very funny. But I do like... So, what we're broaching here is the relationship with Lilith, right? The setup we got from season 1, right? Like, oh, Lilith was there the whole time on a beach and she has a deal with heaven somehow. Like, what's her motivation? What's she doing? So we're setting up that relationship, right? Like, that Charlie is very much half of her mom and half of her dad in a lot of ways, right? That she has a lot of that innocence from her father, clearly, right? She has a lot of that optimism and idealism, right? Like, it's what we saw in More Than Anything, right? Like, it's the view I had of you that showed me dreams can be worth fighting for, right? Like, that she got that from him, and then she's lamenting that what she didn't get from her mother was ruthlessness, right? Ignoring meaningless things and people, right? Like that, yeah, Lilith was very good at being in charge of hell, but clearly she was kind of an absent or neglectful mother and partner to a certain extent, right? That there is this, like, we had daddy issues in season 1, we're gonna have mommy issues in season 2. Which again is that place where I wonder, like, what Lilith's role in all of this is going to be ultimately. Because, like, it's clearly not that Lilith was, like, an abusive parent, right? Like, or an abusive partner. That is certainly not what's being set up here, is that Lilith was, like, cruel. But that it seems that Lilith was ambitious, right? Like, Lilith has all these ambitions, all this concern for the bigger picture, right? Like, this leader of demons. And that has made her absent in her family relationships. Is that envy? Oh, that's Asmodeus. B. Oh, I see. There's Satan. There's Mammon. It's the other sins. He's got pictures of them on his wall. That's sweet. Any other little secrets hiding in the background here? Just a lot of rubber duckies, mostly. Do we ever get an explanation for the fucking rubber duckies? Like, what is it with Luce and the rubber duckies? More of that lovely looseness with Charlie's animation here as well. There does seem to have been a general, like with a lot of the characters, a general, like I said, like season 1 at times I felt was too stiff. Like season 1 at times felt like it was like probably because there was a lot of outsourcing, probably because they had to like because it wasn't like in-house directed everything at Spindlehorse, and I'm sure there's a lot of outsourcing in season 2 as well. But season 1 did feel often a little stiff in its animation. Season 2 has definitely gotten looser with it, a lot looser. And very much for the better, I think. Especially with some of the acting performances, like this sequence here. These scenes remind me a lot of that scene in Ghostfuckers with Millie and Blitz. Just in the way that they're using, right, like the softness of motion that they're working with here, right? Lots of in-betweens, lots of slow motion. Not slow motion, but slow motion. Motions which are slow. And things that, like, get to settle. And, like, lots of character interaction, like characters leaning weight on each other. And that does feel tender, right? Like, that does feel genuinely very tender. And the looseness of the animation is a big part of why it works, I think. I think that's what gives it, like, a lot of its emotional quality here. Especially, like, this bit, they're doing full frame by frame, well, animated on 2s, obviously, but they're doing full frame by frame, full animation on Charlie's face here. Like, I'm sure, like, it's probably Toon Boom or whatever software they're using. Like, they're probably copy-pasting from frame to frame a bunch of stuff, but you see the wobble? That's very well managed. That has a nice... That has a good feeling. And again, is that thing of, like, very well managed in terms of... We were talking about how they use the camera, right? The way the camera is used to accentuate, like, the emotional valence of each shot and what it's saying. The slow zoom here, especially, I think is very effective for that, of creating that feeling of softness. Just having that little bit of extra motion in the frame. These are good acting performances. When we get to see Lilith's character design properly, one thing I'm going to be looking out for is whether she's still wearing the ring. Lucifer is. Is Lilith? I bet she is, but we'll see. 3, 2, 1, go. Again, camera work. Look how small. So many of the shots there are making Charlie look small. Ah, no. And they're all gone. Yeah. We kind of knew that. Me, when I see good animation on the internet. Good question. That's not semantics, Vox. That's practicalities. Oh, he was a tech bro. That was soon for the villain song. Well, probably there's going to be more than one. Oh, fuck you! Oh, fuck off! No! Oh, I'm restraining myself, but... Promised land. Every command. Yeah, I can figure the melody. I like that they gave the villain a fucking I Want song. Ooh, the harmonies. 3, 2, 1, pause. Okay, fucking goddamn spindle horse. They gave the villains an I Want song. That's interesting. So, okay, I'm always assuming that this is just common knowledge and not just for Disney as nerds like me. The I Want song is I want to be where the people are. I want to see them dancing. Like, it's that song, right? It's the Little Mermaid's, like, part of your world. It is, I want adventure in the great white somewhere. And, like, Hunchback of Notre Dame, just to live one day out there. Like, it's those songs, right? It's the song that's about expressing the interior want of the protagonist, right? Like, this thing of, I think perhaps the best example is Hercules, right? Like, I can go the distance, I'll be there someday. Like, I'll be right where I belong. Whatever. That's the I want song, right? And the typical structure, and this is, now I'm curious about that, because if they're giving them a straight up Disney I want song, because the typical structure of the 3-act play that kind of movie, that kind of musical is structured around is the characters begin with a want, but their want is not their need. Right? And the character's arc of discovery is finding that the thing that they need is not quite what they want, but the thing that they want is better for them, right? So with Hercules, he wants to go to Olympus, he wants to be a god, he wants to be, like, that's where he'll find his place, but what he needs is to realize that his place is with the people who love him here on Earth, right? Like, Aladdin wants to be rich, he wants to be a prince, he wants to live in a palace. What he needs is to learn to be honest with himself and live more authentically and, like believe in his own qualities, rather than buying into the framing that only wealth makes you worthy as a person, right? So it's that want versus need. So if they're giving Vox especially, but the V's, a fucking I want song, that implies that the want versus need conflict is going to be placed with them. Again, I don't know that this is what they're doing necessarily, but that would imply that the want versus need conflict is placed with the V's. And it's the V's themselves who at some point over the course of their story arc, I mean, you can end their story tragically, which is that they're going to get destroyed and defeated because, like, but that some of them are going to have to realize that what they want is not what they need. And the thing is, that would be the classic setup for a redemption story, but I don't think they're going to fucking redeem Vox, though. Right? That would be... Because... Because Vox does reveal his insecurity, right? Like that like the core of his motivation is insecurity. We saw that in season 1 as well, in his song with Alastor, is that Vox is fundamentally driven by a deep insecurity, right? And in that sense, like, this deep insecurity, this need for other people to regard him as powerful and successful, and in that sense, he's not that dissimilar from Pensius, right? With the evil turned up a little bit, he's not harmless the way that Pensius was. Well, I mean, I guess Pensius probably also killed people. But, like, these are the qualities that you would have for a villain who could conceivably be redeemed, right? I don't think they're going to do that. It would be weird to do that, but if you give the fucking V's the I Want song, then I don't know what else. Like, that feels like they're gesturing towards that particular plot arc, which would be odd. I mean, it would be... I know there's been discourse, I think. I mean, I only saw TikToks about it, so who the fuck knows? But I did see some chatter about there being discourse about, in order for Has-Been Hotel to truly be about everyone, even the worst people, deserve a chance to be redeemed, like, someone like Valentino would have to have redemption by the end. Like, someone who's not just... And, like, there's an extent to which I agree with the premise of that idea, that if Has-Been Hotel wants to commit to its premise, right? Like, that even fucked up, awful people deserve a chance to be better, right? That the way to deal with the problem of evil is not to simply enact punishment forever, but that, like, for people ought to have an opportunity to be better than they were, then someone who's actually evil does have to get redeemed by the end of the show, right? Pensius was only ever presented as an ineffectual, harmless comedy villain, right? Like, he never actually hurt anyone. And in order for Has-Been Hotel to actually commit to its premise, someone who's actually awful would have to see redemption, like would have to have the opportunity to say, okay, I accept that I have been wrong. I am going to make the effort to become a better person and to make amends, or to somehow try and undo some of the damage that I have done. And then in turn, that person does have to be redeemed, no matter how evil their behavior was. I don't know that Valentino is the character I'd pick for that. Oh, I kind of want Valentino just to die and fuck off, to be honest. But it does have to be someone at some point who is actually evil is going to have to be shown to have the capacity for change, because that's the only way to validate Charlie. Like, that's the only way to prove Charlie correct, is that someone who is actually really fucking evil has to see the error of their ways, do the work to change for the better, and see redemption, right? Because that's the core of Charlie's ideology, right? Like, is that anyone, no matter how awful, should have the chance, right? Not infinite forgiveness for everything forever, but they should have the chance to do the work, right? And that would have to be, I mean, maybe, I guess Vox is possible. It would be weird for the main villain to be the guy. Velvet, I suppose. She hasn't really shown, but she hasn't really been overtly, again, like we said, in season 1, she didn't get to do anything, and in season 2, she still hasn't actually, like, been the primary driver of any direct harm, right? Like, she's only acted in concert with the other Vs. We don't know enough about her to position her in that slot. So, like, I guess Loot, maybe, if you wanted, like, because I thought of Sarah, but that would be too easy. Like, that would be letting her off the hook, I think, to say that, but, like, it has to be a sinner. It has to be someone from hell, right? Like, that's the premise of the show, is that it has to be someone from hell. It has to be someone who was condemned unfairly. It has to be someone who was condemned to suffer. And Sarah hasn't been. Like, Sarah has never suffered a day in her life, honestly. At least not yet, this time. So I don't know. Like, Sarah feels like a weird choice. Someone has to be. And since Vox got the fucking I Want song, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I assume not. I assume it's just, like, I assume I am reading too much into an I Want song, which, you know. I do like that Vox, when he was alive, had an Adam-ass haircut. Like, yeah, you would, Vox, wouldn't you? Oh, hang on. Ooh, look at that. Oh, that's really nice. That's a nice little digital flick animation for just a background thing. Good character animation on Vox here as well. Which makes sense, like, this is his big scene, right? In episode 1, anyway. Yeah, so we talked about this, right? Like, when they have to swap from flat to volume. Oh, look, secondary motion. I was looking for that. There's secondary motion on his little antenna things. Good. A little bit of boing. There should be more of that. He should have that in every scene that he's in. This scene, they're animating Vox with the volume basically the whole time. Yeah, and you can see the animators, like, they can't do that much to change the shape of Vox's face because it is a box. but you can see them doing as much squash and stretch as they can get away with. There's little details here. Look at the little shoulder shimmy he does. That little wiggle of the shoulder before he like reaches over to do his little power thing. While he's playing that little zig. That's a lovely little gesture on him. Again, that thing about like, are we animating him flatly or are we animating him with volume? Here we're doing volume. Here we're rotating things in three-dimensional space. We're really sort of playing around with... That guy on YouTube is going to analyze whether he's playing the correct notes here. I have no idea. Yeah, you can see them playing with the curves, right, of the flat screen TV head. That when he's pushing upwards in this note, you can see it gets a little convex, concave, one of the two. Convex, I think. And then when he goes back down again, concave. And they're really playing with that to accentuate his expressiveness. And it works too, I think. Oh, this is very, very good character animation on him. Yeah, like, look at this. Animated on 2s and 3s, depending on... But of course, like, this is animated, like, well, I say animated on 2s and 3s. The thing is, the video file that I have here is, if I look at my... Where the hell are the properties of the file? They're here somewhere. Why does Premiere Pro have the worst fucking... Hold on. Frame rate, there. They are... Oh, they are 24. Okay. That was a little bit important. So the video file I have is at 24 frames per second. Good to know. Because usually when they're... Most modern digital video is like 30 frames per second. And animation tends to work in increments of like divisions of 2 and 4. 2, 4, and 3, because that's the main place. That's really well done. Animated mostly on 2s and 3s as he rises. And then, fuck you. Oh, you motherfuckers. A piano. With the fucking piano. Really? And a full fucking 360 row. That's just showing off. And not only, okay, so it's not just that the thing is rotating, right? So, okay, I guarantee you, I will pay you money. I don't think that piano is necessarily a 3D object. It could be. I genuinely kind of can't tell. Maybe... I mean, that's what I would do. If I was the art director who had to fucking... The supervisor who had to script out how to do this scene... I would make the piano a 3D object, and then you only have to animate the 2D character. That still leaves a challenge for the compositor, who has to make the 2D animation and the 3D object work in the same scene. At the very least, I 100% guarantee you that the piano was created as a 3D model, and then maybe they rotoscoped over it. Because this shit is the hardest. This is I've told this story multiple times before. When they were doing 101 Dalmatians, the animators did not fucking want to animate Cruella de Vil's fucking car because it's a very complicated, like three-dimensional object. It's a nightmare to animate that thing correctly, like moving three-dimensionally in space and things. They could have done it, but what they actually did was they built an actual physical model, they photographed it a million times, and then they rotoscoped over those photographs in order to get the animation on her car. And it looks amazing in the actual fucking movie. The way that you can spot whether something is a 3D model is usually that it's too perfect frame to frame, where animation, when you're redrawing an object over and over again, you will usually accidentally introduce inconsistencies and flaws. Did they rotoscope this? You should be able to tell by the corners of things. I genuinely can't tell if this is a very well disguised 3D model with some really good shaders, or if it is rotoscoped. I feel like occasionally I catch inconsistencies that tell me that it's rotoscoped, but hand to God, I couldn't tell you whether the piano is a 3D model. I assume it must be. Because there are little bits in the compositing right here. Right, where you see that it's almost like Vox is inconsistent with the platform, right? That the little stool is moving almost as though it's floating on top of the platform rather than being planted on it. And that's the sort of thing that would make me say, okay, but then it can't... Okay, hang on. See, that's the inconsistencies that I'm seeing. If this was all a 3D scene, and the piano was a 3D object that was being raised on the 3D platform to enable this 3D camera movement, what I would expect would be perfect planting. I would expect the piano to be geometrically perfect with the background and everything that's happening. So if it's not, then what that would tell me is either that they, in the animation phase, in order to preserve the framing, did some creative moving of the model in order to position it for this push-in, that makes it a little bit floaty, but makes the whole shot flow better, or that they actually did fucking rotoscope the piano and then it didn't composite together 100% perfectly in the final edit. Not that it matters, you didn't spot it the first time around, neither did I. But I genuinely fucking can't tell, and that's more and more this is happening with modern animation, is 2D animators are getting really, really, really good at integrating 3D into their 2D production pipelines in ways that are functionally invisible. And which drives motherfuckers like me insane, because I'm the kind of guy who gets, like, really fixated on knowing this shit. But, okay, so the piano is its own little flex. The other flex is whichever lead animator did this, I want to buy you a drink and punch you in the mouth. How the fuck did you do that? Because it's one thing if you have, like, these 3D objects and whatever. The next thing that has to happen is that the 2D animator, right? Like, the person who actually has to animate the fucking character has to come in and somehow find a way to, like, you have the camera movement pre-programmed. You have, like, a scratch version of, like, this is what the camera is going to be doing in that scene. And the 2D animator then has to sit there frame by frame, matching up their drawing, all the angles, the positioning, the planting of the character, so that it works in that three-dimensional camera movement, right? And I've ranted about this before with Hell of a Boss. That fucking shot of Octavia where the camera is, like, pushing down on her and, like, the fucking ground is erupting. And this is that fucking caliber of how the fuck did you do that, you asshole? Right, and like if you pay attention, you can see a little bit of floatiness, right? Like you can see that not every single frame is perfectly aligned with everything that the presumably rotoscoped 3D model thing does. Again, for a shot like this, I have to assume that they must have put like a 3D puppet into the 3D shot to act as an animation reference, right? Like which was sort of doing a very basic version of the character animation, and then a 2D animator goes in and uses that as like a basis to build the performance that they want around. But it doesn't, like, no matter how many tools you have, like this, doing a shot like this today is a million times easier than it was in like 1962 or whatever, because today you can have 3D animation software do a lot of the computation of like providing you with a perfect reference to use to make this kind of thing work. But like, there's no amount, like, it doesn't matter how much 3D animation program assistance you have. If you try to draw this with your hands of a character, especially one that's as weirdly fucking shaped, because it's one thing to do this with a sack of flour, right? It's one thing to do it with a ball. It's one thing to do with a box. Like, that's reasonably doable. It's another fucking thing entirely to take this hyper flat, Vivsy pop-ass, lanky motherfucker character design with a fucking flat screen for a head and a hat that most of the time is not an actual cylinder, and Goku hair that shit in this fucking... Because it's not just that the shot is spinning, right? It's not just that he's spinning around and rotating. That would be impressive. It's that the camera is pushing in on him, right? It's entering his space. It's flying right next to his head. Then it's like zooming down in this diagonal angle down to the left. And then it's coming up around the piano, pushing in on his... Like, fuck off. And there's no reason to do this. It's flexing. It's just flexing. Like, you don't... This isn't necessary for the cinematography of the scene. This isn't the dramatic climax, right? Like, this isn't the high note. This isn't like the big rah. This isn't the big impact. This is the start, right? This is Vox just sort of hitting his stride. Right? It's not a big drama moment. Like, the music isn't going, oh, we need all of the stops pulled out to make this fucking high note land. No. They're just doing it to flex. They're just doing because, oh, we have a piano rising on a platform. Oh, okay. Let's just fucking... Let me just fucking pound this monster and knock that one out real quick. Oh, you motherfuckers at Spindlehorse. You motherfuckers. I need to know who the lead animator was on that. I need to find them on socials. I need to see the rough version of that. I need to know the extent to which that piano was rotoscope versus actual 3D platform, 3D model. Because fuck you. And you can see, like, here, like, once they're done flexing and showing off, oh, no, back to static, right? Like, back to, okay, now we chill, right? Now we just have a flat thing and we're just pushing and zooming. We're just doing some digital zoom. We're not doing all this fucking complicated camera movement bullshit. I do like the reveal also that it's a player piano that Vox wasn't actually playing. He just had a little machine that does it for him because of course he did. Of course Vox would have a machine to do it for him. Nice little doubling. I like the arc of that. I like the up lead with the foot. You land and then, like, just take that into a stride. That's very effectively done. And then more rotations, just because. And here it's appropriate, right? Like, because this is the... We're leading to the... Not the crescendo, but, like, the first big boom of, like, we get up there, right? And here, again, some stellar animation work. Like, you can really see here... Here we're breaking the model, right? So... In animation, broadly speaking, you can animate things on model or you can animate things off model, right? Like, that's not a particularly insightful thing to say. That's like saying you can put water in a glass or you can put water somewhere else than a glass, right? But what they're doing here is they're breaking the model intentionally, right? Like, that's not how body works, right? Like, that's not correct. but we're doing it because we want this, like we talked about, the arc with the tail, when the remaining dragon creature, I can't remember which one of them it is, was flying through. Like, we want this arc, right? Like, we want this line of action so that we can pull this move, right? Like, where we just kind of flip. But because we have this line of action from the arms that's guiding the twist in full motion, right, it looks like he's actually spinning, even though what the animator is actually doing is a bunch of little tricks. Just sort of let them flip the character from one side to the other. Another, again, that thing about, like, the 2D animators playing with the proportionality of the characters, right? Because, like, Vox has a very long torso, right? Long torso, also long legs. But here, because we are not bound by, like, rigid model compliance, we can do this forward lean that essentially turns his torso into this, like, itty-bitty little tiny thing. And then he has the longest legs proportional to his body in the whole fucking world, right? And we can do that because we're cheating to camera with that forward lean. So he can do this little, like, musical number hop up the stairs. I mean, angels don't deserve to have their wings torn off, but she does have that on. Like, that is a pretty cool fit. I was like, maybe a few angels, just like, you know, like they'll volunteer. They'll see the outfit. I accidentally went all the way back to the beginning, which was not the intent. I may just skip back forward to where we were. Like, they'll see the fit. They'll volunteer. She'll make some for them as well. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Someone has to suffer for fashion, right? Might as well be an angel. I do love that they're playing a lot more with the costumes for the Vs. Because that's one thing, that's one part of the character design of, oh yeah, they'll grow back. We saw that with Vaggie, right? They'll grow back. They'll, like, we could, Anastasia, cut the wings off, and then, like, dance with Carmilla and sing a song. You can have them back, no problem. Like, it's not even damage, really. But one thing about, like, again, the character design of Has Been Hotel is that the characters are, like, they are very well defined by their silhouettes, right? Like that's one thing about Medrano's design style is she has a sense for a very strongly differentiable silhouette. There is this annoying criticism that goes around about Medrano's work where it's like, oh, all the characters look the same, and everyone just like, oh, all of her characters look like Alastor. And it's like, no, they don't. Like, no, they don't. If you actually pay attention, like, there's plenty of criticism you can make of the character design in Has Been Hotel. I have done it, but the idea that they all have the same exact, like, dress the same and have the same silhouette is just, that's just factually untrue. Like, one thing Medrano is a trained animator, and one thing she's very good at is creating a recognizable silhouette for a character, right? Like, they don't all look the same, motherfucker. The only reason you think so is because you're not looking very hard. Come up with a better criticism. There are lots of them. Like I've already touched on, like her propensity, her love of these extremely hyper skinny characters as default, where, like, fatness only really seems to exist as a begrudging exception in the character design. That's a very valid point to criticize Medrano's design style, is that she loves thinness a lot, and she seems to have a little bit of trouble creating, like, central characters that aren't in some way defined by this lankiness. And then more fucking rotation shots. Not quite as technically complex, this one, because they can cheat them by, like, they pass out of frame, right? So you don't have to quite rotate them. You can just flip them a little bit, but it's still, especially with Velvet with that fucking dress on. Again, this is flexing because they make Velvet put on a really complicated costume, and then they animate that costume rotating, which is like, and another very good bit of rotation work on Vox there as well. This really is Theater Kid the show, though. Like Theater Kids are eating so fucking good between Glitch and Spindle Horse. In the sense that this is a show that loves theatrical expression. I mean, is there any need for me to keep ranting about it? It's just, it's flexing. It's flexing. You don't have to do rotation shots. You don't have to. You never have to do them. It's very rare that there's a scene that absolutely necessitates a rotating shot around a 2D character. So when they do it because it's like, no. We want to make something that fucking looks exceptional, right? That's part of why I love rotation shots, is that there's an indulgence to them. There's always an indulgence. Right? It's always, this isn't necessary, but we're doing it because, right? Because it's a challenge, because it's visibly difficult, because it makes the thing pop, right? It's making more effort for the sake of it. And that's why I love them so much. That's why I find them so fascinating, because they are always an expression of a production at the very least, if not an animator going, no, watch this. It's always an expression of an animator going, I'm about to show you some shit. Like, listen, I'm about to flex these fucking muscles. I'm about to enjoy my craft at you. And that's what's beautiful in art a lot of the time. It's just someone who's good at their craft enjoying it at you. Yeah, it's that's good. Anyway, what's about to happen where are we right now? We're 23 minutes in. Okay, we're almost done. It'll probably only take us an hour to get through the last 2.5 minutes of this thing. 3, 2, 1, go. Looseness. I like it. Cut to Pentious now. Cut to Pentious. Yeah. Does it have to have a V in it, Maggie? Ah. If only you had someone with access to mass media on your side, Charlie. Where the fuck are you, Alastor, on this? Very good. Okay, but I do want to see what the fuck Penches is up to, though. Okay, very good. They couldn't help themselves, but all right, fair enough. Oh, here's the thing with Emily. You notice how her wings are animated? That's really nice. Look at that. Like, it's not, the wings aren't flapping all in unison. They're flapping in waves. That's really nice. And like the animator is doing a really good job of like making the wings a part of her. You can see how like here when she does that little move, the wings react to that and change their pacing a little bit to sort of match. Yeah, like look at that wave motion on the wing beats. Oh, hey, look who's spooking around in the background again. It's funny how Lilith keeps showing up in the background of so many shots. Funny that. I love the magic of a good doubling because, like, in full motion, right? In full motion, Emily looks like she's shaking her arms, right? In full motion. But the moment you stop and look at what's actually there, it's just that, right? Like, they're not actually drawing that many frames of it. You just take the one arm, you double it in two, you put a couple of speed lines over it, and there you go. Yeah, now you have like a fast, stylized shaking motion. I love that. It's a little magic trick. It just fools the eye. I do like that Emily's magic is so water-based. Is that true for all the angels, or is that just her, then? Because that's, like, certainly the classic juxtaposition there would be heaven is full of fire, hell, heaven is full of water, hell is full of fire. So water and fire is like, oh, that kind of thing. Because, like, Lucifer's magic is hell magic, I guess. And he has a bunch of flame imagery along with his sparkles and things. But we didn't really get to see, I think Adam has gold lasers, but he wasn't really an angel. He was a winner, I guess they're called. He was a human. I'm wondering if there's an elemental angle to this somewhere. Look at that portal animation, too. That's really nice. Like, the way it, like, curls in on itself. Very good. Now let's look at the credits. Guest starring Keith David, though. And somehow it's... Animation produced by Princess Bento. Very good. And again, these people, right, like production coordinators, production managers, production supervisors, right? It's hard to tell from the name of their position what they do. I can't tell you for sure, but they're among the people whose job it is to make sure that thing we talked about with the assets, right? Like making sure that the animators have the background assets that they need for the shots that they're animating, that everyone's coordinated on. This thing needs to composite into that thing. like everyone here is part of, like, that's the thing about animation, is that it's inherently a collaborative discipline. Like even when you look at things like those amazing one-man projects on YouTube you'll get every once in a while, where like one person has created this animation of the thing, is like when you actually dig down into it, the reason that that one person was able to produce that amazing piece of animation is because they were using a lot of tools and resources that other people had made for them, right? That other people had developed before they got along to do their project, right? Even when you are a solo animator making your own personal project all alone, and you make all the frames and you make all the assets and all of that, even then, like, animation is always dependent on standing on the shoulders of giants. It's standing on the work and the tools and the know-how and the knowledge and the resources that have been made available by the work of other people, right? So that's not to discount the achievement of people who do amazing solo animation, but like it is a thing that's important to keep in mind, is that all animation from top to bottom, from basically anything, it always has an element of collaboration to it. Like, no one ever fully animates alone, right? And like, for that reason, these people, even though the finance people and the IT manager weren't sitting there drawing the pictures and putting them on screen, they have a co-equal responsibility for this thing being made, for this thing even existing, right? And that's something that's important to keep in mind, is like, with all of the discourse that happens around Spindlehorse, where people fixate on Viv Medrano so much, as though she's both the sort of divinely inspired genius creator who made the show all by herself, like just all on her own with no help from anyone, or the people who sort of like everything bad about anything that ever happens anywhere in anything that Spindlehorse does ever is Viv Medrano's personal specific fault, right? Both of those framings of both the problems and the virtues of Spindlehorse and their output are completely fucking divorced from reality. That is just not how reality works at all. And I think the animation industry especially, and animation fans especially, will be a lot better at appreciating the craft of animation and the work of animators once you get rid of that fucking auteur theory brained, there is one person responsible for this kind of mindset around it. Because, like, yes, like, not to discount Viv Medrano's achievements, that she was able to build this business and she was able to get all of her, like, personal creative projects off the ground like that. Well done her. That has taken a lot of fucking work on her part. And, like, yes, a lot of the problems, like my issues with the character design and pacing, that is definitely, like, the buck stops with her because she's the owner of the company and so on. But you can't just sit there and go Viv Medrano Saint, Viv Medrano Devil, whatever, and say all of the failures of Hazbin Hotel are on her shoulders, or all of the achievements of it are to her credit, because they're not. It's all of these people. It's all of them. It's editors and storyboard supervisors and artists and revisionists. It's color leads and background designers and concept character lighting designers. Like, yes, you need people to do that shit too. All of these people are co-equally responsible for this thing being made at all, right? And I think the world gets better once we sort of start looking at these productions more holistically. Because, like, the part of the problem of the sort of auteur theory of these things is, like, it happens in video games so fucking much. Hideo Kojima is not responsible for most of the things in a Hideo Kojima video game, right? It happens in movies. The director is not responsible for most of what goes on screen in a fucking movie. Like, they're just not. Like, the director of photography has something to fucking say about that. The editors have something to fucking say about that, right? The actors too, the gaffers, the set designers, the fucking VFX people. When you have this auteur theory, like, all of the credit for this thing goes to this one genius or this one villain that we sort of fixate on as, like, it makes a worse world. Like, it creates a world full of exceptional individuals, and we sort of end up acting as though exceptional individuals are the drivers of culture, but they're not. The drivers of culture is this. It's all of fucking this. Like, this is where culture comes from, for better or for worse, with all of the flaws and all of the goods. This is where it comes from. all of the fucking people who work on it. And I just get so tired sometimes of seeing discourse inevitably just revolve around these individuals over and over and over and over again. Because I think it traps us in this toxic discourse that, like it ties into this fucking... this obsessive need for purity that we, like, sort of impose on individuals, that the work can only be pure if the one person, like the sin eater that we have designated as responsible for it, is pure, right? And if they are not pure, then the work is not pure, and if the work is not pure, then interacting with it will taint you. Kind of like, I think that's... I don't know exactly what the connection is between those things, but they're interlinked. There is a connection between this. When the reality is, like, even books, right? Like, books you think of as having, like, just one author, but, like, any book that's worth reading will have had an editor. Like, at some point, it fucking better have. It's like... I think the point I'm trying to reach for, even though I'm doing a bad job of it, I think we would be better off if we started to think of responsibility as something that's collective rather than individual more. Background checkers. Yeah. You need when you have as many backgrounds as this show does, you fucking need background checkers. And that's part of the background checker's work, almost certainly, is to ensure that, like, the correct backgrounds are available for the shots that the animators want to animate. Layout checkers, layout artists, and just a fucking army of animators. Holy shit. And retake animators. That's the other thing. Sometimes you have fucking retakes, right? Like, sometimes it's like, oh shit, something happened in the editing, or we realized we need that one little extra shot, or like we got the voice actor in to record an extra line or two for the scene, or do another take on the scene because the performance didn't quite work when we put it together. You need people on staff to do all kinds of shit. I wonder how much of this is outsourced versus in-house Spindlehorse talent. Because, like, I know that for Hell of a Boss, Spindlehorse has relied very heavily on freelancers, right? Like, on people who work on a per project basis. So they'll hire a bunch of people for one episode of the show, and then, like, release them to go do other freelance work if they want, and then maybe bring some of them back on for the next one. I don't know if that's how they're doing it with Has-Been. I would imagine they are working with a more steady crew for that. But I don't have the memory in my head to be able to check the credits of every episode and recognize all the names to see whether that's the case. And the compositors, like, we've talked about this, the compositors are... you don't see their work. It's not visible to you, because when the compositor does their work correctly, it's fucking invisible. But the fact that it's invisible means that there are some very good compositors. Like, the fucking spinning shot with Vox and the piano and shit, a lot of the credit for that working goes to the compositors. If they don't put those assets together correctly, and I do mean correctly, you can tell. Like, it looks bad instantly. Horowitz still there as voice director. It fortunately doesn't have a Danish dub. That would be horrifying. But if it ever was to have a Danish dub, I would need to audition for a role. Like, just a background character. I don't care. Like, make me the guy who says he's jerked off to all of Angel Dust's porn or whatever. it's nice that like that's one of the benefits of working with something like Amazon and A24 is that you can have all these translations done. That's incredibly expensive to have done otherwise. Shit, that was a pretty good episode to start with, I think. Yeah, I fucked up something in the recording on the one thing. Nothing bad. Don't worry, it's not going to ruin anything. It's just I realized I didn't set a little thing in one of the recordings correctly. So if you've been watching this on YouTube, I usually have a timestamp in the top left corner. I seem to have fucked up the placement of that a little bit. I'm going to see if I can fix that. There. Yeah, okay, that timestamp should be fixed for the next one now. But anyway, that was it. That was it for episode 1. I'll gather my thoughts at some later point, I'm sure, but 2 hours and 47 minutes feels like that's probably enough for one 26-minute episode. Oh, I see people in chat. Hello, people in chat. I can see you now. I haven't been able to see you this whole time. Have you had a good time? Very good. Well, you're about to have more of a good time because we're going to do episode 2. So if you're on YouTube, subscribe for that. If you want to see the more convenient version of it, become a member of the channel, or don't. You don't really have to. Has been Hotel, etc. and stuff.